Hi there. It's good to see you. Today's show is a little bit more serious. Um, and I'm not even sure that I really want to do it, but I feel compelled in my heart to do it. So, for those of you who are here for a business sort of context, maybe just want to X out of this one because this one is going to be a little bit more personal. So, maybe about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago now, we found out that someone in our life who's really close to us had been diagnosed with brain cancer. And not just one tumor, not just two, but six. And this is a person who's not very old. In fact, this person has had a very meaningful impact to not only my life, but the life of my bride, the life of our children, and it's really hitting us hard. Part of the reason for that is because this person is our pastor. He's also, I think he's just turned 37. He and his bride have 4 children. I think the oldest might be 10, but 2 boys, 2 girls, and it's just hitting our community pretty hard. So I was just kind of thinking, like, obviously we think back to, this really challenges our faith. We really have to kind of lean in, and it's easy to kind of, step away from that. But I don't necessarily want to make this about faith right now because I think it's just a little bit too raw right now. It's easy to be mad. It's easy to be upset. It's easy to try to understand something that just is beyond understanding. But it's he started hospice care this week. So with brain cancer, these things don't tend to go very slowly. They tend to proceed rather quickly. So anyway, it kind of made me think of just a couple of things in terms of some pieces of advice that I have received in my life, and maybe that's what I want to share with you guys today. So it's interesting that he's been messaging. He and I messaged a little bit last night. I sent some message to both he and his gal, and he messaged back this morning. And he messaged back last night. I read them this morning. But so I'm assuming it was him. It may not have been him, but I'm assuming it was him. Had messaged, and still very, very clear and cohesive, and clear and not cohesive, not the right word. Comprehensive. He understands clearly. It's him and his language. It was him messaging me back. So it was just interesting in that point in time where he was asking just to make sure that we checked in on his gal and make sure that she was okay, and she would never be one to ask for help. And it kind of spawned a thought in me about a piece of advice that I got back when my mom passed away. Or I'm sorry, my mom my mom was still around. My mom passed away several years ago. But prior to that, her husband had passed away. So this is my stepfather. And this guy name was George. And George was a good guy. He was just kind of a little rough around the edges, had a huge heart, and really cared for a lot of people, and really taught me what it was like to love, because he was just unconditional, just didn't care, didn't drag around a lot of baggage into stuff like that. And when my mom when my mom had met George, we were all kind of like scratching our heads, like, what are you doing with this dude? Just my mom was Scottish. She was somewhat proper, somewhat conservative, and he was a little rough around the edges when it came to that. Beer drinking kind of a guy, loved to laugh, loved to party, and really showed her the joy of golfing, of all things. And she really became this golfing addict. Well, anyway, when George passed away, this woman had come up to me right during the service at one point in time, and she came to me in this piece of advice. I don't even remember who this woman was. She was obviously a friend of the family of some sort, and she came up, and she had a very heavy Brooklyn accent. So if you know that accent, you know what I'm talking about. And she came up and she was very direct, as many New Yorkers are. And she said, what you said was beautiful, but do not forget to check in on your mom. And of course I was like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to check in on my mom. Like, she's like, no, you're not hearing me. She goes, everybody right now is saying things they necessarily don't mean. Like, Hetty, my mom's name was Hetty. Hetty, if you need anything at all, just call me. Right? And I was like, yeah. And I thought about that. And again, if you think about that for a moment, in a receiving line like that where everybody is saying the same thing, is there's anything at all you need, right? Well, never in the history of ever has anybody ever said anything like, oh, wow, thank God you brought that up. I could so use could you go pick up my laundry right now? Right? And so glad you said, could you go bake me a pie? No one in the history of ever has ever whipped out a to-do list in the middle of a receiving line at a funeral and had any sort of notion in terms of what to ask for. So a lot of times, if we're being honest, and I know this is more true for me than anything, I say that to make myself feel better, right? If there's anything you need, you just ask me, right? But I say, and then I walk away feeling with my conscience clear, feeling like I'm good. I'm good. I checked out. I didn't have to say anything else. And that's where I feel like maybe we're going to try to be more intentional about that for this woman and her 4 kids, and not just do the same thing of, hey, if there's anything that you need sort of thing where we just say, where we just say something to just make ourselves feel better, but actually make a commitment to moving forward. And that's getting back to what this friend of my mom was saying is, don't just worry about now. Your mom's getting flooded with people right now. And for the next couple of weeks, she's still going to have people flooding her. But it's not now. It's not even a month from now. It's somewhere between a month from now and 8 months from now that your mom's going to hit a wall. And it's all going to come. It's all going to get very, very real for her. She's like, that's when she's going to need you. She's like, and there's no telling when that will be. And I was like, man, that is such a good piece of advice. So I know that this, again, I know that I focus this channel on family businesses and family business owners and small business owners. And I think this is just maybe a piece of life advice that we could use regardless of who you are. So, yeah. Be careful of the commitments that you're making. If there's anything that you need, what does that really mean? And I think I'm going to be a little bit more intentional when I say those things going forward. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take good care.